The morning light spills gently across the window. A soft breeze moves through the curtains. Somewhere a kettle whistles, and a new day begins. You take a breath and feel the weight in your back. The familiar pull behind your knees reminds you that time moves too. Each step feels slower, heavier, more cautious. But today is different. Today is about listening. About moving with care, not force. About finding comfort in the smallest motion. You stand by the window, feet steady on the floor. The world outside hums quietly, but inside it's just you and your breath. Inhale calm, steady, soft. Exhale a gentle release. This is where healing begins. Not in struggle, but in awareness. Not in pushing harder, but in softening slowly. You remember how it felt to bend with ease, to move without thought. Maybe you lost that rhythm somewhere along the years. But it's still there, waiting to be found again. Every bend, every breath, is a whisper from your body. A quiet promise that relief is possible. And all it asks of you now is to begin. Eleanor used to love her mornings in the garden. She would walk barefoot across the cool grass, watering her roses with quiet joy. The scent of earth and dew was her favorite perfume. But lately, even the smallest movement felt like a mountain. Her back stiffened when she tried to bend. Her hamstrings pulled tight like stubborn strings. Each time she reached for the watering can, her breath caught halfway. She would pause, pretending to look at the sky just to rest. The garden was still beautiful, but it had become distant. A place she admired, not touched. One morning she stood at the window, watching the light shift on the leaves. The flowers looked heavy with color, waiting for her hand. A sigh escaped her lips, part sadness, part longing. She whispered to herself, when did moving become so hard? The room stayed quiet, as if listening. Her body felt foreign, like a friend she had stopped talking to. Every joint carried a story of time. Every muscle remembered years of bending, lifting, living. Now they spoke in stiffness instead of strength. But inside her, a spark remained, a quiet desire to move again. She didn't want to run or climb. She just wanted to reach the soil, to feel alive through her fingertips. So she decided to begin, not with force but with curiosity. She turned on a small podcast about gentle stretching for older adults. The voice that came through was calm and warm, like sunlight through clouds. Start where you are, it said. Listen to your body. Let it guide you. Eleanor smiled softly, uncertain but willing. She placed her chair by the window, grounding her feet on the floor. She closed her eyes and breathed in. Her shoulders dropped. Her chest softened. For the first time in months, she felt present inside her skin. The voice continued, reminding her that pain was not punishment. It was communication. It was the body's way of saying, I need care. That thought changed something deep inside her. Maybe her body wasn't betraying her. Maybe it was asking her to slow down, to listen. She touched the back of her thighs and felt the tension living there. Years of sitting, of holding, of hurrying through life. She realized how little time she had given her body to rest, to breathe. The morning light felt warmer now, softer on her face. Her hands relaxed in her lap. She imagined herself bending again, not perfectly but freely. A gentle bend. A small motion. A whisper of movement that said, I'm still here. Eleanor opened her eyes and smiled. The garden waited patiently outside. The day was quiet, inviting. And though her body was slow, her spirit felt ready. Somewhere deep inside, something had already begun to move. Not her muscles, not yet. But her hope stretching, awakening, unfolding like the first bloom of morning. The next morning, Eleanor sat by the window again. The light felt softer, like it knew she needed a gentle start. She breathed slowly, letting the stillness fill the room. Her legs ached a little, but the ache felt familiar now. It wasn't fear anymore, it was awareness. She placed her hand on her thigh and felt the warmth under her skin. How strange, she thought, to know her body and not truly feel it for years. The voice from the podcast returned, calm and reassuring. When you feel tightness, it said, you're hearing your body speak. Eleanor listened. Her hamstrings spoke in quiet tension, whispering of long days spent sitting. Her lower back hummed with stories of lifting, cleaning, caring. Each muscle carried a memory of effort. Each joint held a little echo of time. The narrator continued softly, as we age, muscles short. They protect us, but they also hold us still. Eleanor nodded slowly, as if she could feel every word. Tightness wasn't an enemy. It was a guardian that never stopped working. Her body wasn't broken, just cautious. It was guarding her from what it thought might hurt. But now, it needed permission to relax again. She inhaled deeply, her spine rising like a slow tide. With every breath, she felt space between her ribs. With every exhale, a small piece of tension left her. It wasn't magic. It was listening. The narrator spoke again, guiding her attention down to her legs. Imagine your muscles like threads, the voice said. They weave together, holding your strength, your balance, your past. Eleanor pictured them, long, gentle lines running from her hips to her knees. She imagined light moving through them, warm and golden. The light softened the stiffness, untangling each knot of resistance. For the first time in years, she thanked her body. Thanked it for holding her through the years. For carrying her through joy, loss, laughter, and silence. Her hand rested on her knee, steady and kind. She realized that movement wasn't just physical. It was emotional too. The tightness in her back wasn't only age. It was worry stored in her spine. It was grief tucked behind her ribs. And slowly, as she breathed, those stories began to loosen too. Her shoulders lowered without effort. Her jaw softened. Her thoughts quieted. The world outside the window looked brighter. The leaves shimmered like they were breathing with her. She whispered softly, "I hear you." Her voice trembled, but it felt good to speak. For years, she had ignored her body's small cries. Now she was finally answering back. In that still room, nothing grand happened. No sudden cure, no dramatic shift. Just a woman learning to understand her body again. And that understanding, quiet and honest, felt like healing itself. The morning continued, unhurried. Eleanor smiled to herself and whispered again, "We're learning, you and I." And somewhere deep inside, her body smiled back. The third morning came with quiet rain. Soft drops tapped against the glass, a slow rhythm of calm. Eleanor sat by her window, a blanket over her knees. She turned on the podcast again, her breath matching the rain's pace. The voice spoke gently. "Before we move our body, we move our breath." She smiled faintly and closed her eyes. Her breath felt shallow at first, caught somewhere in her chest. She noticed it, not judging, just watching. "Inhale through your nose," the voice said. "Let the air fill you like a wave. Exhale through your mouth, slow and steady." Eleanor followed, letting the sound of her breath mingle with the rain. The air moved deeper, warmer, smoother. She felt her spine rise slightly, as if waking from sleep. Her ribs expanded like petals opening in morning light. Her shoulders softened, melting into her chair. Each breath drew her closer to herself. She could feel her body listening. The narrator continued, "Your breath connects everything. It speaks to your muscles, your heart, your mind." Eleanor imagined her breath traveling through her body, down her back, across her hips, along her legs. Like a soft river, washing away the stiffness that lingered. She felt her toes tingle faintly, alive with warmth. The room felt whiter, quieter, lighter. For a moment, there was no pain, just air moving slow and kind. The rain outside softened into mist. The sound of the world felt far away but safe. Eleanor breathed again, this time with gratitude. She whispered quietly, "Thank you." Her breath had always been there, patient and loyal. It had carried her through laughter, through tears, through years of forgetting. Now she was learning to trust it again. She inhaled and the thought came, "I'm still here." She exhaled and it answered, "I've always been." The narrator guided softly, "Let your breath guide your posture. Feel your spine lift. Feel your chest open." Eleanor straightened gently, her hands resting on her thighs. Her back aligned without effort. It felt natural, like her body remembered something it had always known. Her breath filled the space inside her, spreading calm in quiet waves. Even the ache in her back seemed softer now, like it was exhaling too. She realized that healing wasn't about pushing forward. It was about returning to breath, to presence, to kindness. The rain had stopped, leaving only silence and the faint scent of earth. Eleanor opened her eyes. The world looked new, washed clean by patience. She stood slowly, one breath at a time. Her knees felt steady, her back supported by air itself. Each inhale lifted her. Each exhale grounded her. And in that rhythm, she found a peace she hadn't known for years. A peace that didn't demand effort, only awareness. She whispered, "Breathe first, move later." And with that, her body began to listen. Eleanor stood barefoot on the wooden floor. The morning sun had returned, warm and golden on her skin. She placed her hands on her hips and listened to the calm voice again. "Today," it said softly, "we move gently from the knees to the toes." She took a deep breath, steady and full. Her spine rose, her chest lifted, her shoulders fell into ease. Feet shoulder-width apart, the voice guided. Eleanor looked down and adjusted her stance, feeling the wood beneath her toes. It was firm, grounding, familiar. "Keep your knees soft," the voice continued. She bent them slightly, enough to feel balance, not strain. Her body swayed a little, searching for its center. "Inhale as you stand tall," said the voice. "Exhale and begin to bend forward slowly." Eleanor folded from her hips, her head lowering like a leaf falling. The stretch came gently, a pull behind her thighs, a whisper in her back. Not pain, not resistance, just presence. Her fingertips reached toward the floor but stopped halfway. That was enough. She paused, breathing into the space she'd created. Her body trembled softly, uncertain yet alive. The voice reminded her, "Go only as far as you feel safe. Your body knows its limits. Respect them." She nodded, still bent forward, her breath moving in waves. For a moment, everything felt still, her heartbeat, her thoughts, her breath. Then slowly she began to rise. "Stack your spine one vertebra at a time," the voice said gently. She did, lifting her head last, feeling the motion unfold from tailbone to crown. Her eyes opened, and the room seemed brighter. She could feel her blood flowing, warm and light. Her legs tingled with quiet energy. Her back felt alive, not heavy anymore. She smiled, small, private, genuine. The voice spoke again, calm as ever. "Now repeat. Breathe in. Breathe out. Move slowly." Eleanor bent again, this time a little smoother, a little deeper. Her fingers brushed the tops of her shoes. Her breath followed her motion like a dance. Up, down, inhale, exhale, a rhythm as old as life itself. She wasn't fighting her body now. She was moving with it, speaking its forgotten language. After a few rounds, she stopped and stood still. Her chest rose and fell gently. Her knees felt strong, her back open, her mind quiet. She looked at her reflection in the window, a woman both fragile and fierce. She whispered, "You did it." Not because she touched her toes, but because she tried. Because she listened. The voice on the podcast faded, leaving soft music behind. Eleanor closed her eyes, letting the warmth settle inside her. She could feel the quiet gratitude of her muscles, her breath, her bones. For the first time in a long while, she felt light, not younger but freer. And as she stood there, tall and steady, she realized something simple and true. The body remembers. It just needs to be reminded, one gentle bend at a time. Days passed, and the movements became part of Eleanor's mornings. She no longer needed the voice to guide her. She remembered each step like a quiet prayer. Feet apart, knees soft. Breathe in. Bend forward. Rise again. Each motion felt smoother, softer, more familiar. Her body began to trust her again. Her breath and balance found their rhythm. One morning, she noticed something new. As she bent toward her toes, there was no fear. The tightness in her back had loosened like a knot finally untied. Her hamstrings no longer screamed for attention. They sighed. They released. And when she stood again, her spine felt tall and proud. She laughed quietly, surprised by her own joy. The sound startled the silence in the room. It had been so long since laughter came that easily. Later that day, she went to her garden. The roses waited, heavy with bloom and fragrance. The earth smelled sweet and alive. Eleanor knelt carefully, her knees touching the cool soil. For the first time in years, there was no sharp pull in her back. Only a gentle awareness, her muscles working together like old friends. She reached out, trimming a stem, brushing the petals with care. The world felt close again. Every color seemed brighter, every sound clearer. She felt present, rooted, breathing with the garden. Her neighbor, Clara, peeked over the fence and smiled. "Eleanor," she said, "you're back at it again." Eleanor smiled too, her hands still in the dirt. "Yes," she said softly, "I'm finally back." They talked for a while, two women sharing sunlight and small joys. When Clara left, Eleanor sat for a moment just breathing. Her knees bent, her toes pressing gently into the ground. She felt strong, grounded, alive. The wind moved through the garden like music. It carried a peace she hadn't felt in years. Inside her, something had shifted, not just in her muscles but in her spirit. Healing, she realized, wasn't loud or sudden. It came quietly, through small, steady moments. Through every breath that said, "You're doing enough." Through every bend that whispered, "You're still capable." She thought about the first day, how afraid she was to move. And now here she was, bending with ease, smiling with her whole being. Her body had forgiven her for years of neglect. Her mind had learned to soften its worry. Together, they had found balance again. She stood brushing soil from her palms and looked at the sky. The sun was bright but not harsh. It felt like a reward, gentle, golden, deserved. She whispered to herself, "It's never too late to move again." The garden shimmered under the morning light. The flowers swayed as if nodding in agreement. And Eleanor, with her breath steady and her heart open, bent once more. Not because she needed to, but because it felt beautiful to move, to be free, to be alive. Eleanor's days found a new rhythm. The mornings began with stillness, not rush. She no longer reached for her phone first. She reached for her breath, for the soft music of movement that had become her ritual. Every sunrise felt like an invitation to begin again. She would stand by the window, inhale deeply and smile. Her body knew what to do now. It no longer hesitated. Her knees bent easily, her back moved like a slow wave. The stiffness that once ruled her mornings had faded to memory. She learned to listen to her body's quiet moods. Some days it felt strong. Some days it asked for gentleness. and she gave it what it needed, not judgment, just kindness. The narrator's words still echoed in her head. Movement is not about control. It's about connection. Eleanor lived by that now. She began adding little moments of movement everywhere. While waiting for the kettle, she stretched her arms. While brushing her teeth, she rolled her shoulders. When she cooked, she shifted her weight, feeling her feet grounded on the floor. Every action was a small dance with life. It wasn't exercise anymore. It was a conversation. And through it, she felt closer to herself than ever before. She kept a small journal by her chair. Each evening, she wrote a few words about how her body felt. Sometimes just one line. Light, balanced, calm. Other days, longer reflections. I bent today without pain. I feel taller, softer, freer. Her handwriting grew steadier, her thoughts clearer. The act of noticing became a kind of meditation. She realized her healing had never been about fixing. It was about returning to awareness, to gratitude. One afternoon, her grandson came to visit. He watched her bend to pick up a fallen spoon. "Grandma," he said wide-eyed, "you moved so fast." She laughed, a sound full of life. "Not fast," she said, "just free." He didn't understand the depth of her words, but she did. Freedom wasn't running. It was bending without fear. It was standing tall without pain. It was living in a body that felt like home again. As the sun set that evening, Eleanor stood outside. The garden shimmered in soft gold light. She inhaled deeply, her chest rising with quiet pride. Every breath felt earned, every step sacred. She thought of all the mornings she had doubted herself, all the years she had forgotten the joy of simple movement. And now, with every knee-to-toe bend, she remembered. Healing had found her through patience, through breath, through love. She closed her eyes and whispered softly, "Thank you, body." The wind moved gently around her, carrying her words away. She didn't need to prove anything anymore. Her body, her breath, and her heart were finally in harmony. And in that harmony, she found the truest kind of strength, quiet, steady, alive. The evening light draped the garden in gold. Eleanor stood among her flowers, breathing softly. The air was cool, the sky calm, the world unhurried. She bent forward once more, slow and gentle. Her fingertips brushed the soil, warm and familiar. There was no strain now, no ache, no hesitation. Just motion, quiet, graceful, alive. She rose again, spine unfolding like a wave. The sun touched her face, soft as a blessing. In that moment, she felt complete. Her body was no longer a stranger. It was a companion, steady and kind. Every breath carried gratitude. Every movement carried peace. She whispered to the wind, "I'm home again." The leaves rustled as if answering her back. The world seemed to breathe with her, in, out, in harmony. Healing, she realized, had never been about perfection. It was about presence, about love, about listening. She smiled, eyes closed, the light fading slowly around her. Tomorrow she would bend again, just as gently. Not because she had to, but because it felt like joy.